Hi everyone, we're starting the season that I'm doing about Robin Williams today, and we're starting it with pretty much my favourite film of his. So many films to go through over the coming weeks, but this one for me strikes a particular balance between very touching real life situations that pretty much most families, particularly parents, can identify with, combined with crazy comedy that he was known for. Because before he started making films, he was known as a stand-up comedian, and before even more comedy, especially in areas like San Francisco. But we will give you general facts about him as the season goes on. Today we're focusing on that first film, which is Mrs. Doubtfire, and one of the most central premises of it is how far would you go to spend extra time with your children? Well, most fathers, certainly, and mothers would go the extra mile, and Wiliams does in this. He plays Daniel Hillard, who has recently split from his wife, played by Sally Field, and when she advertises for a housekeeper to look after her children, he applies on the spot with the use of help of a friend giving him a perfect wig, a little makeup, and his brilliant personality for doing impressions and imitations. He becomes Mrs. Doubtfire, a no-nonsense British nanny who is hired on the spot. What follows is a long battle for him of spending more time with his children and getting the balance between that and getting his own life in order. He has to get accommodation in order, he has to get a job fixed, and basically get his life in check. He starts the film before the relationship even collapses, quitting his job at the local TV station as a voice-over artist for cartoons. He walks out of that job, and his marriage ends because he takes a birthday party for his son too far, and you see all the chaos that emanates from that. So once he becomes Mrs. Doubtfire, obviously he gets to spend more time with the kids, and through the ensuing court case to finalise divorce, the judge basically sets those goals that I've outlined, keeping his accommodation, keeping his job, and basically sorting his life out. He has a social worker coming to check upon him every week or so, and it's one of those visits that's one of the most hilarious parts of the film, when the social worker meets Mrs. Doubtfire and he has to apply his mask and all the clothes and everything else, switch between the voice of Mrs. Doubtfire and Danny, making an excuse that Mrs. Doubtfire is a relation, and it's just absolutely ensuing comedy. You also, obviously, because it's a divorce or possible divorce situation, get the effect of the children as well, and how everything is reconciled and squared away. You also have Sally Field's new boyfriend for a while. He's played by Pierce Brosnan. Obviously, there's the jealousy between himself and Wiliams, which causes some wonderful, touching moments, as well as comedic as well. So it's a very, very moving film. You can't help to be moved by it. There are some parts in the film where you really do feel your heartstrings tugged for all the characters involved. His Daniel Hillard's little daughter is played by Maria Wilson, who you'll know from our recent review of Matilda, if you saw that. That's available live on the channel now. Well, she actually stars as his daughter Maddie, in this film, and the bond that she has to Mrs. Doubtfire in particular, before finding out later in the film, of course, that it's her father, is just so heartwarming. As I say, it's the emotional play between what you do for your marriage and for your kids and getting your own life together. And it's also very much through the character of Mrs. Doubtfire that Hillard actually lands himself the work break that he needs back at the TV station. And he gets to be Mrs. Doubtfire for a children's slot in the afternoon in America. And success comes from that gratefully. It is quite autobiographical, as are a lot of Wiliams films. You'll find over the season that there are similarities between him wanting to always better himself, always help others, but always better himself, and never be quite convinced that he's as good as people think he is, or as people perceive him to be. And that's obviously the case with a lot of comedians. Some of the funniest people are the saddest clowns, you could say, in a way. But it's an absolutely wonderful film. It's very well loved. You'll find, as I say, some of the films that we go through in this season are very different from each other, and I think that was quite deliberate in his life. As far as Mrs. Doubtfire goes, overall, it's absolutely fantastic. Say, one of my favourites. And we'll now give you a look at the special features that are available with this film. So for the special features, we've got a audio commentary by producer Chris Columbus. We've got on-camera cast interviews. We've got 30 minutes of deleted scenes. An interview with animation director Chuck Jones, who was very famous for producing a number of cartoons, particularly the Warner Brother Looney Tunes. We have a modelling test and application footage. So that's for things like the makeup effects. We've got the theatrical trailer. We've got the final animated sequences. So all in all, there's quite a lot of extra stuff to be had. The overall rating for the film is parental guidance, so obviously general viewing, but some scenes may be unsuitable for younger children. Just bear that in mind. We've got subtitles in various languages available. Obviously the main feature in English, with Dolby Digital surround sound. That's basically the special features included with them. As I say, this is one of my favourite films of Wiliams. Always has been, always will be. And the story, it grabs you in every emotional sense. As I said before, from, really feeling and sympathising for his fight to try and get his family back. And what the creation of this whole alter ego, Mrs. Doubtfire, how that affects his life, both positively and negatively for a time as well. It is a fantastic family film. As we said with the rating, there are a few bits that smaller children may find a little bit difficult to deal with. But overall, very touching, very moving, very funny, and in a sense autobiographical, as I said. And you'll find as we go on through this season that as we go on through the different films, it's very much like an onion. It peels away at the layers of Wiliams' own life, and through appreciation of his films, you obviously get to know the man as well quite a bit better. So, my overall star rating is 4.5. The reason I'll remove half a star is purely because in some ways the film can drag a little bit. There's some of the narration between the courts, the social workers, all that sort of stuff, and also the arguments between him and his wife. Maybe there's a little bit too much of that, but I can understand why, time is spent on that, because obviously you have to really empathise with the situation they're going through. But for me, personally, there might just be a little bit too much of the emotional difficulty, but that's just me. But overall, an extremely good film. And as I say, one of my favourites and a great one to start the season off with. Hope you've enjoyed this review. As I said, there's many more in this season to come. Take care, and we'll be back with another video very soon.